ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Verses 21 till the end. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte San Nihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukran Karane. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani. जठरे शयनम् इह संसारे बहुदुस्तारे कृपया पारे पाहि मुरारे रथ्याचर्पट विरचित कंठः पुण्या पुण्यविवर्जित पंथः योगी योगनि योजित चित्तो रमते बालोन् मत्तव देवा कस्त्वं कोऽहं कुत आयातः कामे जननी को मे तातः इति परिभावय सर्वमसारं विश्वं त्यक्त्वा स्वप्नविचारम् त्वयि मयि चान्य त्रैको विष्णुः व्यर्थं कोप्यसि मय्यसहिष्णुः भवसमचित्तः सर्वत्र त्वं वाञ्छस्य चिराद्यदि विष्णु त्वं शत्रौ मित्रे पुत्रे बन्धौ मा कुरु यत्नं विग्रहसन्धौ सर्वस्मिन्नपि पश्यात्मानं सर्वत्रोत्सृज भेदाज्ञानम् कामं क्रोधं लोभं मोहं त्यक्त्वात्मानं पश्यति सोऽहम् आत्मज्ञानविहीना मूढा ते पच्यन्ते नरकनिगूढा गेयं गीता नाम सहस्रं ध्येयं श्रीपति रूपमजस्रं नेयं सज्जन संघे चित्तं देयं दीनज नाय च वित्तं सुखतः क्रियते रामा भोगः पश्चादन्तशरीरे रोगः यद्यपि लोके मरणं शरणं तदपि न मुञ्चति पापाचरणम् अर्थमनर्थं भावय नित्यं नास्ति ततः सुख लेश सत्यं पुत्रादपि धन भाजां भीतिः सर्वत्रैषा विहिता रीतिः प्राणायामं प्रत्याहारं नित्यानित्यविवेकविचारं जाप्य समेत समाधिविधानं कुर्ववधानं महदवधानं गुरुचरणाम्भुज निर्भरभक्तः संसाराद्व्यचिराद्भवमुक्तः सेन्द्रियमानस नियमादेवं द्रक्ष्यसि निजहृदयस्थं देवम् भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति डुक्कृङ्करणे नहि नहि रक्षति डुक्कृङ्करणे नहि नहि रक्षति डुक्कृङ्करणे. Hari Om, everyone. Namaskaram. The last we were doing was the 29th verse, the very famous verse, Artham Anartham Bhavaya Nityam Na Asti Tatah Sukhalesha Satyam. Artham Anartham, wealth is calamitous. Reflect all the time, Bhavaya Nityam Nasti Tatah Sukhalesha Satyam. Truly, there is not even little happiness from it. The wealthy fear even his own son. This is how it is ordained everywhere. Sarvatraisha vihitariti. Remember, leaving you all with a question. The question, wonderful, Vijayalakshmi, why can't material wealth give you any happiness, nor can it give you any security? So the question is, why can't material wealth give you happiness or security? Security, or I said it can't give you, it can't counter your insecurity, I said rather. Insecurity is opposed to happiness. So why can't material wealth give you either of the two? I have noted a few answers in the group. Perhaps any one of you have not communicated, would like to share, please do so. Now, wealth is only a commodity with which you can exchange it with sense objects. You can either buy color and form for your eyes, taste for your tongue, touch for your skin, etc. So it is a foolish perception of the humanity that wealth can be purchased, can be used as a transaction for seeking happiness. In fact, the answer which some of you have got it right, material wealth cannot buy you any happiness, nor can it counter insecurity, is because you must understand they are not of the same order. They are not of the same quality. They are in fact of a different kind. One is of a lower kind, another is of a higher kind. The material wealth is of a gross nature, happiness or insecurity of a superior nature. So if you were to understand material wealth as something which is gross, and happiness or insecurity is a mental state, a phase or an experience of your mind, it is very clear if you understand that anything gross cannot get you anything subtle. Gross cannot give you subtle. Gross can only be exchanged with something gross. Material wealth can only be exchanged with something at the physical level, at the material level. That's about all. With wealth, I can buy myself comforts and conveniences. But is that going to make you peaceful and happy and contented? Think about it. If you disbelieve in this great wisdom, let your experience teach you a lesson. If your experience also has not taught you a lesson, you're going to burn yourself by chasing this illusory world with the illusory belief that the more is going to make you happy. The more I have, the more happy I will be. The more I have, the more riches I amass, the more secure I will be. If you are illusioned by that thought, you will only make a mess of your life. You're only going to destroy yourself. There is no help out there if you don't want to help yourself. So the Shastras are very clearly telling there is no happiness from it. In fact, our experience itself teaches us that. What our experiences teaches us is any happiness is a projection of your mind. First point, remember, the happiness that you believe in is a perception created by your mind. So your mind makes you believe that happiness resides in certain things and beings. And when your perception is set, pursuit starts. Then there is a relentless pursuit of trying to satisfy whatever your mind demands or desires. So your mind makes you believe happiness is in that, and you keep chasing it. Now, because of your relentless pursuit, today or tomorrow you'll get it. What's the big deal? It's not that you're not going to get it. It's a matter of time. You'll get what you want. Maybe you have lagged behind. Maybe you have got a little late, but you'll get it. Life is not unfair. So you'll get what you want, if not today, tomorrow. But what you and I and everybody realizes that all that happiness which your mind makes you believe. Remember, there is no happiness in the world. There is no happiness in the objects and beings. Happiness is a creation of your own mind. Your mind makes you believe that it is there and you keep chasing it. And that belief is there until you get to the experience. The happiness is only there in the perception. Is exactly like you are full of thirst. You are dying of thirst and you are in the hot desert, scorching sand. It's so hot. It's over 50, 55 degrees centigrade, burning. Your shoe soles will melt in that sand. So hot. And when you look around, you'll actually see mirage. You'll actually see water. And you're illusioned by that. You run to get to that body of water. You'll only be fooled that it's just hot sand. Your entire life is as wild chases. You believe it's there. So you and I realize that there is no happiness in the external objects or being only once you get there. The happiness is only until you get there. Remember this. Happiness is only until you get there. Why is it until you get there? It is because your mind makes you believe. It is a false mind. Your mind is playing a trick with you. You've fallen a prey to your own mind. And as a result of that, You're consuming your entire life running behind the external objects and beings. We are not saying not to acquire. As costly as thy purse can buy, says Shakespeare. If I can afford 10 rupees, I'll go and buy what my 10 rupees can afford. If I can afford with 100 rupees, I'll go and buy what my 100 rupees can afford me. Why should I sit and crave for something which is beyond my capacity? But don't be illusioned by the fact that it is only there in that you do not have. You keep running outward and make you believe your whole life is consumed with that. And all boils down to this illusory perception your mind makes you believe you're fallen a trap to. And if you can get this attitude of your mind under control, you will acquire the world, you will enjoy the world, but you will not fall a prey to the mental illusory false pursuit. You can't run away from the world. You will have to be in the world and acquire and enjoy and possess whatever you deem fit. Whatever you need to give yourself the comfort and convenience. Go ahead. The scriptures are not against your acquisitions, please. They are only against your foolish pursuit behind them, thinking that alone is going to give you security. So anything worldly, anything material cannot give you. In fact, on the contrary, I remember Maniji was saying last time when we discussed briefly on this. The more you have, in fact, the more insecure you are, isn't it? It's not that the more you have, the more secure you become. In fact, you acquire only to offset the insecurity, but the experience is exactly the contrary. The more you have, the more insecure you are. In fact, I remember a long time ago, there was an article written upon a silk garment, in fact, a silk sari. They were saying the silk sari costs so many lakh rupees. And they were saying, if somebody were to take a scissors and cut a piece of the cloth, it will be worth few lakhs. So wearing that sari is such a high, it was studded with diamonds and whatnot. Now, why do you have to possess something? You know, what do you call that kind of comfort? Don't say my purse can afford. What is your problem? No, we are not having any problem against your acquisition. But if you were to indulge in that kind of comfort, what's that comfort known as in philosophical parlance? You would not be wrong to use that. It's known as Ravana's comfort. Ravana lived in a palace studded with gold and diamonds. Ostentation, aggrandizement. Ostentation is a vulgar display of your wealth, isn't it? You're just trying to impress. Whom do you end up impressing if you are ostentatious about your wealth? Whom do you impress? Harishi, since you use the word ostentation, can you tell me if someone is being ostentatious about his wealth, whom do you impress?
You're trying to impress the outside and not yourself. You feel your esteem is not in your self-esteem, but in what others think of you.
Yes, that's why you're primarily doing so. But of the part of the world, which part of the world you're trying to impress? So you're trying to fit into a certain bracket of people, aren't you? You're trying to cater to a certain mindset, a certain category of people. Now, whom are you trying to draw attention?
Those who think that if you are materially rich, you are bigger or greater.
So you're only trying to impress people who have a value for it. So you're only trying to attract nature of people who are gross in thinking. No cultured man will be interested in your wealth. Only a man of wisdom will be interested how humble you are in spite of all your success. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. No big deal how much wealth you have. Remember, I was, oh my God, I hope I can recall that verse. I don't have that script. Remember that verse of how many? Anyone of you remember that Sant Kabir's Doha? It talks of it talks of this. What do you, a date tree? Can anyone recall? Alkaji? Yeah, Jayama. But you must sing for us, huh?
बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ, जैसे पेड़ खजूर, पंथी को छाया नहीं, फल लागे अति दूर, कबीरा फल लागे अति दूर.
Perfect. Correct. बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ, जैसे पेड़ खजूर, पंथी को छाया नहीं, फल लागे अति दूर, कबीरा फल लागे अति दूर. Now what it means is, if you're big, so what, man? You're just like a date tree. A date tree doesn't provide any shade to any travelers, and also the fruit is so hard to reach. So you have, in fact, no use. Isn't it? That's what the literal meaning of the verse is. Bada hua to kya hua, jaise ped khajur. So what is the use if you are of no help, no service to anyone? Now, what's the use of a tree if it can't provide any shelter? So, yes, Setramanji.
While talking of wealth, they say all these sultans of Middle East and the super rich people elsewhere also, they have a team of chartered accountant and fund managers just to see that money is not eroded. Whatever their wealth every year remains the same. That itself is a tough proposition. And they spend a lot of time and worry in protecting their wealth and seeing to their wealth not get decrease. This is the biggest problem. Till the death, they spend all their time in protecting the wealth, and the toughest thing is to part with the wealth.
Yeah. Correct, Ji. So they are, in fact, you have rightfully said, Setramanji, that there are three aspects related to wealth. The first aspect is acquisition. Acquisition of wealth is not easy. You will slog and slog your entire life to acquire it. Having acquired it, as you rightly say, rest of your life, you are struggling to maintain it. And if at all you have to part with it, the fact that the thought of parting, I hope I don't have to part. I hope I don't have to part. That attachment is so terribly holding on to you. There is an insecurity of parting. You would not want to part it for yourself nor for others. That's what he says. You will fear your
Guruji, they used to say in Guntur in the olden days, all the landlords used to reside in the city. Their lands were elsewhere. And their job is only daily going to the court on litigation. With neighbors disputes. Whole year they will be busy with that court work.
I tell you. In fact, wealth is a talk I've given. Is wealth a blessing or a curse? We were wanting to do a poll, but our polling booth is not ready yet. Our polling officers are very busy. So our polling has not come up because we were told that there is something called polling we can do in Zoom. And we wanted to do polling. If only the polling was ready, we would have done polling now. The question is wealth a blessing or a curse? What do you say? Shipra ji, are you there? Shubhama, 1 minute. Just a minute. I'm just trying to engage Shipra ma here. I hope she's here. Is wealth a boon or a curse?
Yes.
Why can't we see you, ma? Please, if you're in a position to.
Yes, I'm listening.
Wonderful. Nice seeing you, ma. Glad you could join. Namaskar. So the question is wealth a blessing or a curse? You have a choice, huh? You can't choose both. Any one thing you must say.
I can't say it is a blessing and also it's a curse.
I know
Depends on the
that's the reason I'm saying you have to say only one.
Okay, then in that case, wealth is a curse.
Oh my God. You are echoing what Adi Shankaracharya is saying. He says, wealth is calamity, he says, isn't it? Wealth is dangerous. Why would you say wealth is a curse?
Because in trying to acquire the wealth, you might just go astray and, just go away from the Yamaniyamas.
You lose the very purpose of life.
That's right.
You don't realize what's the purpose of life. You've lost the entire life in the foolish pursuit, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, very true. Wonderful, ma. Good. Please keep your camera on, huh? Don't switch off, please.
Yeah.
Yes, Shubhama, you were saying something. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, it can be like wealth could be a curse, or it depends on the individual. If he is spending it in a useful way, then it's not a curse. If he's saving it for his future activities, or if he has a purposeful plan to save that and do something about it, then it will not become a curse. Otherwise, if that person doesn't know how to spend or in a useful way, or utilize that wealth in a proper way, then it's a fear that how much, where I'm going to put and what I'm going to do. I could have done it, analyzing the wealth itself is a big headache actually nowadays. What to do with, the share of money, and so it could be both. So,
no, I told you I'm only giving a choice. You can't say both. End of the day, you're coming for both, huh?
no, but
it just tells us the challenge we are facing with life.
It has to be, if wealth is not there, we can't exist.
Correct.
It's something, it cannot be, termed as a curse. It is something God has given in a right sense. We have to take it in a right sense that ultimately the God has given it. We can't just acquire wealth from our own, it is something God's gift, I feel. More wealth is there, then that person is lucky only. Whether it is of his hard work, out of his hard work or anything, it is, at the end of the day, I would feel it is God's gift if you acquire more wealth.
Well,
yeah.
Take your point, Shubhama.
Yeah, thanks.
A few answers have trickled in. Wealth is a blessing, well earned and used, as long as it does not become a mania. If you use wealth in a proper way, used in giving for the needy, then it's a blessing. Wealth in the spirit of yajna is what the Shastras are saying. Define wealth, please. I think in the very beginning I said wealth is a material, anything material, which can be exchangeable with sense objects. You may not have physical cash, but you have 10 properties scattered all over the country or all over the city. That is wealth for you. You can exchange it with something. It can be in any form. It is something as a commodity, something which can be exchanged with any material things. That is wealth, material wealth. Whatever way, you may say material wealth is in the form of Bitcoin. You may say material in the form of shares. You may say material wealth in the form of assets. A different way you may measure your wealth. Okay. Now, Annapurnama is saying wealth is not a curse if the possessor is not possessed by the wealth and be shared. Very nice. The problem is not in the wealth, but in our relationship with wealth. This is what I was looking at. Is wealth a blessing or a curse? Is purely determined and defined by your relationship to it. If you are a master of your wealth, it's a blessing. If you become a slave of it, it is a curse. And when does a wealth, when do you become a master? When you are only the possessor and not the possessed. When the wealth doesn't possess you, you remain to be a master. But the moment you are possessed by your possession, then you become a slave. And how do you know you have become a slave to your possession? You can't part with it. There is a great fear of parting with it. You can't part. You dread the thought of parting with it. I hope he doesn't ask. I hope I don't have to give. There's a fear. There's a concern for holding on to it. I don't want to let go. That kind of attachment. I'll have it. I'll also have my children and their children. So my grandchildren also must enjoy. It must be remain in my own family. That kind of a possessive attitude. And is it not true? Isn't it a belief system? If I'm not wrong, somebody here can throw light on it. Is it not said that wealth doesn't last more than 3 generations in a family? Isn't it a belief? I do not know how it can be proven, or what is the, anybody knows what is the origin of this strong belief which has been so oftenly quoted, that wealth doesn't last more than 3 generations in a family. It doesn't last. So you want to save it for your grandson. By the time your grandson gets it, it's almost gone. It's not there. So it is not. So that is the very nature of wealth. Don't ask me why. Anybody has an input on that? That it doesn't last more than 3 generations. So all that you're holding on to, myself, my kith and kin, all I've written everything to my family, and then it goes to my grandchildren, and then it will be eternally there. You're living in an unreal world. It's all gone, all wiped off. Because the head of the family is struggling, stingy, passes it on. And the son leads a license, little licentious. And by the time it comes to a grandchild, nothing is there, all gone. I don't know. Look at it. Is it just we are all smart people? Let's examine it. So when are you a master of wealth? You're only a master of wealth when you are detached to it. That spirit of detachment come in. And when you're detached to wealth, what is the sign of detachment? You will be able to part with it. It is a readiness to part, not parting of it, but the readiness to part describes detachment. If you are very attached to it, you cannot let go of it. And it is that very possessive attitude of I and my wealth. And I only want my wealth to mount and multiply, but I wouldn't want to enjoy it. The only objective of acquiring is to enjoy, isn't it? If you don't enjoy, what is the point of acquiring? I just can't understand. Even in terms of material sense, those who acquire don't necessarily enjoy. Even to enjoy something, you must have a lot of values, a lot of principles, a lot of discipline. If you don't know how to enjoy a contact, you have lost the entire effort of acquiring. Now, what is more prevalent? As I've said, happiness is the opposite of insecurity. You hardly come across people who are happy and contented in life. And that is your spiritual quotient. Your spiritual quotient is measured by how happy, contented you are in life. And it is not dependent on your material quotient. Remember that. Your happiness quotient is not determined by how wealthy you are, how materially successful you are. It doesn't determine it. But The opposite of that I said is everybody feels a sense of insecurity within. Now, can you tell me what is the cause of this insecurity? If you're following the thought, you'll be able to think along with me. Your contentment is your spiritual quotient. My question is, what is the cause of that insecurity? Can I ask Indrama?
Guruji, I think it is, as you said, it is one is material aspect, which is in the gross level, and insecurity is again within you, which is a feeling, emotion, more on a higher level.
Yes. But my question is,
So,
what is the cause of that insecure feeling which comes within?
cause of insecurity could be your personal space being endangered or by others. It could also be your imagination. I think
See, if
you
somebody is
imagine
coming in,
certain things to befall you, so you are trying to defend yourself by acquiring wealth and trying to be safe. That could be. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
okay. No, I can understand. I can understand. Okay. Okay. Let's hear anyone else. My question is, what is the cause of insecurity? Padminima says it is your attachment. Padmi Narayanan, sorry, is attachment to wealth. My question is, why is there insecurity? Insecurity is the fear of losing wealth. Why do you have this fear? Possessiveness, need to be in control.
Divinize wealth.
I'm sorry?
You are not divinizing wealth.
Enna Vasantama? What do we need to do? Please tell us.
We have to divinize wealth.
How do we do that?
By increasing spiritual quotient, low spiritual quotient, we have to go inward. You take a U-turn.
The standard solution. That's a generalization. I'm asking as a very specific thing. See, what is always come back to the question. The question is, what is it that is causing the spiritual, the security, insecurity within? I said, because you lack your spiritual quotient.
No
Now,
principles,
why?
no values.
No principles, no values.
Value system is there. You will worship wealth.
That's another beautiful concept. On one hand, we say wealth is a calamity. On the other hand, don't we worship Goddess Lakshmi? Again, here we are caught in a predicament. Am I to consider wealth as a danger, or am I to worship wealth? Is it a divinity or is it a curse?
We are giving too much value to wealth.
So how much value you think we should give, sir?
It is actually to meet our needs.
My needs, I need to have 10 bungalows, 25 servants, a few hundred crores, and I have this and that. That's my necessity.
That
What
if
would you say?
You have to be contented.
I
You
will
have to
only be content.
operate from contentment platform.
Correct.
You have to be.
You are a very serious advocate of contentment. We know that, sir. You're going about advocating contentment to everyone. Why am I feeling that insecurity? Okay. Hemalatama, I think she has raised. Where are you? Where are you? Sorry, I don't see you. Where is Hemalata? Yes, ma. Please unmute yourself.
Yes. basically because we don't feel we are actually looking for happiness in the outside things. We are not looking for happiness inside, and we don't really realize that we are the Atman. We feel only the outside things will give us happiness and that security. That is the reason for this insecurity.
Absolutely. So glad you said that. None of us realize our fullness. None of us are minding to look within and how paripurna we are. You know, the invocation we chant at the end of the lecture, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnamevavashishyate. Everything is Purnam. Purnam is whole, complete. I am that completeness. I am that wholeness. I am that fullness. This is what the scriptures are roaring the truth to us, that you are that self. Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. You are that truth, man. When you don't realize that fullness, you feel an emptiness. And to fulfill that emptiness, your mind entertains desires, and you are running behind your desires.
Although it is said by so many people, heard by us, and we think we have understood it, still we don't believe it. We don't realize it. But we keep on going into that outwardly things. That is the reason.
That but is there. But
yes, but is there. There's a huge but.
Correct.
Yes, that is.
Somehow we remove the but from the equation, we'll have no problem.
No problem. Absolutely right.
The whole realization is making that understanding one's own. And to realize that, you need to invest your time and effort. Perhaps you need to give your entire energy possible to assimilate it. Merely being informed or knowing what the truth is not going to make any difference. It's only going to cause additional burden to you. So, very beautifully clarified, Hemratama. The thought I'm saying is the ignorance of the self. Write down this chain. The ignorance of the self creates, first of all, before ignorance, there is this paripurna. The first point is paripurna. Harishi, can you please write it out for us? Paripurna hyphen. Paripurna is the first thing. Brackets, fullness. Paripurna means fullness. That is the state. That is what you are. That is what I am. Paripurna, brackets, fullness, hyphen, ignorance of that paripurna. Paripurna in brackets means fullness. The next stage is I am ignorant. Ignorance of that paripurna, hyphen. The third point creates a void or an emptiness within. VOID, brackets, emptiness felt within. Fourth point, this emptiness or the void felt within creates the desires, in brackets, thirst. And you are running behind, and you're running behind the desires into the world. The last point, fifth point, you're running behind the desires to fill the void. You're running behind the desires to fill the void. There's something else left. In the way and the tone which I spoke should tell you that there's something more to it. You're running behind the desires to fill the void. I'm not saying to fill the void. I'm not completing the sentence there. I'm saying to fill the void. What else is there? Srimati Ma, what comes after that?
You perhaps destroy yourself.
So bad. Very, very. What's wrong with you? Why are you wanting to destroy everyone out there?
No, you're destroying yourself, isn't it? Because that void is never going to be filled, and you go chase and chase and chase. Where is the end until you yourself are finished?
Very true. Yes. Your thinking is right. I would request you to think freshly. If you think afresh again, what is that nature of that void? I'm qualifying that void.
Bigger. The void gets bigger the more you fill it. Isn't it? Because you
Yes.
want a big car, then you want a bigger car, then you want a private jet. The
What is it you
void
were saying? Asha.
doesn't.
Correct, Dana? It is a conversation between me and Srimati Ma. So all of you are not purview to
Not
it, but
because of the void,
I
Guruji.
understand. No, no, it's okay. I'm just saying because you said that already to me.
No, because
Because, Asha, if I can say, Srimati Ma, if I can say, she has named her new car with a big back as Asha. Correct, huh?
correct,
Is that
because
how
of
you
Asha
described?
Parekh.
Correct. Huh?
Because of Asha Parekh.
ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನಾ ಕೇಕಲ್ಲ. I don't know all that. You are imagining thing. I didn't even ask why are you calling Asha.
கேட்கல, ஆனா நான் சொல்றேன்.
சரி, நமஸ்காரம். அதெல்லாம் வேண்டாம் இப்போ. It is not the purview of our discussion. நம்ம பஜகோவிந்தம் பேசுறோம். We are talking பஜகோவிந்தம். அதெல்லாம் நீங்க சொல்றீங்க இப்போ.
Behind the desires to fill the void. So you go on
Fill
chasing
the void, which is, you said,
unfillable.
Unfillable, perhaps, right? Okay, let's take from anyone. Okay, I saw Rajima. I couldn't gather what you were saying. Yes, Ma. What is that void?
The void consumes you, Guruji, ultimately.
Sorry, that's what she also said. Consumes or destroys you. I am excited. Venkateshwar Garu has correctly said, the void which is imaginary. The masters are breaking their head and telling us, you fellows, don't you realize it's your own imagination? There is no void there, man. You are creating a void where there is fullness. Isn't that your madness? The moment you realize it is an imaginary void, that very moment you will look within and turn inward. And that very moment you have found that contentment and fulfillment within. Your work will carry on with or without the world. Believe me. You will not need the world to support you, give you a pat on its back and say, come on, nothing. You will just have enough motivation, enough inspiration to carry on your work. It is the ideal that inspires you. This is in fact working in a spirit of yajna. You don't need anything lower to draw you to work. Then your truly work becomes divine, when you are inspired by that fullness, by that paripurna. So what I wanted to tell you is, by the void, the fifth point, the void which is in brackets imaginary. And this is what the masters are coming at us. Now, how do you get out of this? Okay, Harish, wonderful, you captured it. Let me go through if it's all correct. Paripurna, fullness, which is nothing. From that comes the ignorance of the paripurna, which creates a void or emptiness within. This emptiness creates desires, thirst. One is running behind the desires to fulfill the void, which is imaginary. So it can never be filled. The moment you realize it, it is imaginary, you will turn inward. Wonderful. Make a photo frame of it and let it hang on your walls. And if you can get it closer, get it tattooed on your palm. And if you can get any closer, get it imprinted in your heart. As closer to thy bosom, as closer to yourself. Let it not be in the bookshelves. Let it not be containing dust there. Let it go inward and transform you. No, but that doesn't mean you won't acquire. Go and acquire what you think is right. But remember, it is not out there, it is within. So there are only two types of people in the world. The two types of people are who are insecure without the wealth, who are insecure with the wealth. You hardly find people who are secure out there. Because any amount of wealth, the fellow who doesn't have it wants it more. A fellow who has it also wants it more. So what is common is your insecurity. But one who turns inward, and that is the person who has found security. So wealth, but remember, as we said, wealth is a neutral element. There's nothing wrong with wealth. It is all boils down to how you relate with it. In fact, Oliver Goldsmith very beautifully says, where wealth accumulates, men decay. Where wealth accumulates, men decay. Ushama, can I ask you, when does wealth accumulate?
When it is not being distributed and you're keeping it for yourself.
What do you mean distributing?
I mean, when you don't give it to the needy or something, whenever you're approached for, and then you just keep it for your selfish purposes.
So there's nothing wrong with wealth. Then what is wrong with it?
Our attitude towards wealth.
Which is your selfish, aggrandizing attitude. So
Yes.
when you don't part with wealth, when you don't share your privileges and certain comforts and conveniences with others,
Yes.
you're able to make others a little more comfortable.
Yes,
You can't
yes.
alleviate their suffering, but at
True.
least make them feel a little more comfortable, which you
Yes.
have, which you have. You don't have to sacrifice yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever spillover you have, at least part with that.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
And if you don't do that, when wealth accumulates, he says men decays. So my question is, where there is wealth, what happens? What happens where there is wealth? Let me get someone. Jai Shrima. Narsimha Rao Mutsyala. She's not responding when I say Jai Shrima. Chappanma. What? Na question in adutunante. What happens when wealth gets accumulated at a point? What will happen? Just to help you thinking, Ushama said, wealth gets accumulated when you don't part with it. When you are selfish, wealth gets accumulated. Correct? Now the next question, what happens when wealth gets accumulated due to your selfish relationship? What happens?
Any day, wealth won't stay with us because Lakshmi is, what you say, it's very chanchala. So it will go anyway. But we feel that we want more and more.
So since you say anyway it's going to be chanchala, let me hold on to it as long as possible. Huh?
No. So we have to put it in a, give it for the good cause.
Correct. We have to.
Anyway, it's chanchala, so we have to put it in a good this thing. We should share with others.
Correct. No, we already said that when you don't share, you lead a life of selfishness, you accumulate. Now, what happens where there is wealth? Because as rightly he says, men decay. Now, I'm only trying to connect the entire statement. Where wealth accumulates, men decay. Decaying is spiritually you don't grow. He's talking of your spiritual growth. So why does one not spiritually grow, and how is that connected to your material accumulation? Okay, anybody else? Gayatri ma, solungo. No, we can't hear you yet. Wealth creates greed for more and more. No, we still can't hear you.
Since we are not donating to other people, we possess ourselves, we become indulgent, and there is a feeling of insecure, feeling of losing the wealth. So there is no spiritual growth because we become selfish into ourselves. So the level of spirituality goes down.
Correct. The one word I will take from all what you said is perfect. That one word is, where you have access to wealth, you become
insecure. Indulgent.
Where there is wealth, one leads. What does wealth do? Wealth gives you access to sense objects. When you have access to sense objects, what one lacks usually is self-control. And when you have no control or no values associated to your relationship with senses and sense objects, it leads you to a life of indulgence. And where there is sensual indulgence, where you get into carnal pleasures, there is the destruction of spiritual values. Therefore, one of the essential spiritual qualities is to live a life of self-control, not self-denial. You don't have to punish yourself. No, don't have to deny yourself of any sense comforts or sense joys, but live a life of control. When that is absent, wealth you accumulate, you start decaying. So all what we can understand is in the 28th verse, he demolished the first motivation of, no, one of the motivation which is enjoyment. This motivation, he's demolished the purpose of acquisition. The wealthy fear even the sun. This is how it is ordained everywhere. People have lost everything just because of money. Money is such a, what to say, it can bring the worst out of men. Don't they say that? And then I keep hearing of how people behave because of the sake of money. What all they do just for the sake of money. It's so sad. Very, very sad. So all you got to understand is not that you should not acquire. Please ensure that the wealth doesn't create or breed disharmony or discontentment within. You can acquire whatever you want, but remember, it doesn't breed disharmony within your own community or society or in your own family. Nor should it create a discontentment within. But what happens is where there's wealth, there is disharmony and discontentment. And we fall a prey to it. Therefore, in fact, since many people don't know how to relate to it, he is alerting to us and say, wealth is a calamity, it's danger. It's a serious danger. Hariji is saying we don't realize the fact that so many people have contributed in our wealth accumulation. Yes, we have to be grateful. Indeed, very grateful and thankful. In fact, there's a beautiful saying, the real measure of wealth is how much we would be worth if we lost all our money. The real measure of wealth is how much we would be worth if we lost all our money. So today, your level of contentment is not independent, it's dependent. I am contented because the stock market is going well. I'm contented because the properties I've invested, prices are going high. I'm contented and happy because this is all going well. All are safe. Everything is protected. My job is secure. My investments are secure. My family is secure. My car is secure. My home is secure. My reputation is secure. My intellectual property is secure. All these are secure. Therefore, I am happy. Let one of them go out of control. What would happen? Shipraji, boliye, if any one of them goes out of control, what would happen to your happiness content?
If we are not aware of it, we then start to feel that void and then again get into that ignorance pattern.
So the completeness you feel, is it real completeness?
No, and that happens when you don't feel complete.
I don't get you.
Like when you get into that ignorance pattern, then the completeness is not there. then you don't feel complete.
I'm actually not able to gather what you're saying. I don't want to just pass it. I just want to understand what you're saying.
No, what I was saying is that once when we feel that, you get into ignorance, and then you feel that because of something you've lost your, what was making you feel complete, then you actually get more into that void and get sucked by that ignorance.
Yeah, it is that in the sense, yes, you're right. It's the ignorance that gets you into this vicious cycle, and you go on and on.
Yeah.
But even the false sense of happiness or contentment one feels, it is not true. So if you truly want to know how truly contented you are, how do you know how contented and how detached you are? How do you know? How do you test yourself? Yes, Harishji? Full of action he is today.
You're willing to part.
Readiness. No, willing to part, readiness to part, but then how do you really know?
You feel the worth even in the absence. You are the same, your feeling of fullness is the same, whether it is there or not there.
Correct. But how do you test it?
Only in the absence.
Okay. Example, let's say, how do you know whether you're attached to a car or not? Just an example. I am not having anything here. Huh? How do you know you're attached to a car? You part, just let's say your wife takes your car or your friend takes your car.
You stop being anxious.
And I'm not saying anything. I'm just example either. Just example. There's nothing I'm conveying here. Please don't mistake me. All of you, please. Okay, let's forget the examples. They're all mistaking me, sir. I didn't have anything in mind. Chinna kolondu madri innocent question kekra. Correct, sir?
Correct.
So when there's an anxiety to it, then there is an attachment. But when you're able to part with it, even temporarily, you don't have to part with it. So the only way you know how attached you are to things is keep yourself in the physical distance and then see how your mind behaves. That's the true nature of the mind. You can't cheat it. It speaks the truth. It is because it's terribly attached to the child. The mother is terribly attached to the child. The child has gone, let's say schools have opened up. The government decides the school should open, and you have let your child to the school, and the mother is paranoid. I hope the child is taking all the necessary precaution, all the caution, all the warning, all the training given. In this time, I don't want my child to get sick and get this virus. So the mother is extremely paranoid. She's not able to carry on. She's not able to eat. She's not able to cook. She's not able to rest. Nothing. Why? The mind is extremely attached to the child. The father is busy in his work. Why? Because he's attached to something else. Not that he's become a great Mahatma and all. His attachment, he's running behind money. He's trying to multiply wealth. Our attachment. And he gets up midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, just to see how the stock market is behaving. The wife will say, have you gone mad? Why you have to get up? If it goes, let it go, man. If you lose a few hundreds of thousands of rupees, let it go. Why are you losing your sleep over it? The wife is having a sound sleep. This fellow can't sleep. Why? Because he's attached to wealth. The wife is happy. She has got what she needs, but she's not interested in all that wealth creation and wealth fund and that manager and this manager. So you see, each one is attached to something in particular. It is that attachment that causes great sorrow and misery. The only way you will learn to find contentment and happiness is through detachment. And you got to start practicing it with the grossest. Start your detachment with the grossest, the lowest. What is the grossest and the lowest? Alkama? We all have to live a life of detachment. My question is, what is the grossest and the lowest you can practice detachment with?
Anything that appeases the our senses are the gross objects.
So
So wealth, for example, material possessions, these would be at the gross level.
Okay. So
grossest level.
Grossest level. So you can't attempt to be detached at anything beyond that. So what is beyond wealth?
Family.
Emotions.
Yes. Yes.
Emotions. It is very difficult to be detached to the near and dear.
Yeah.
If
especially the children.
Children, especially children. Husband forgotten, huh?
Well, there's an hierarchy.
We got the message there. We got it, so no problem. It's okay. Now you can't justify any further, Now, see, we got to start with the hierarchy. The lowest is the grossest. Get easier to practice detachment to wealth than to emotions. Now, how much joy you find with parting with your wealth? I know. Oh, so much pain to part with it. I'm narrating an example my Guruji used to give. He talks of an experience of his. He was once in Paris many years ago, and he was taken to that very famous street Champs-Élysées, where all these cafes are there, and you enjoy that very scenic drive and beautiful boutiques. You have sit out in the pavement and enjoy a cup of coffee. So the host said, "Swamiji, I want to take you there and let's enjoy a beautiful cup of coffee." I said, okay. I'm actually narrating his experience. So a couple of them who went with them and the host and his family, 5-6 of them went to the cafe. And yeah, Swamiji, what do you want? And whatever they ordered, everything was ordered. And everything came. And as they were about to start, by that time that there was discussion about how expensive the whole place is. This is the prime area in Paris and is very expensive. And the discussion came to the cost of each cup of coffee. Then is a Swamiji, each cup of coffee is 30 euros or something. And then everyone just took the cup almost to sip and put it down. 30 euros of, then he started almost calculating, Swamiji, each sip is 5 euros. He said, is it possible to cancel the coffee order, We'll cancel it, They struggled to drink that coffee also. Now that guy has enough wealth to buy over that cafe. And yet he can't part. He is the one who said, let's go to a cafe. He is the one who takes you there. And then every moment to moment, you're calculating. You can't enjoy wealth. You can't part with it. So the only way you will learn detachment is, it is to be practiced physically, but to be cultivated mentally. Remember, detachment is not a physical quality. If I say, oh, be detached to your family, that doesn't mean I must send off my children away and then I must be away. That is detachment. No. That is not detachment. Detachment is not physical. Detachment is a mental attitude. But you can't reach that subtle level without practicing at the gross level. So start practicing it at the gross level first, and then understand it is not gross, it is mental. If you were to say, oh, I am very detached, chances are you're only justifying your own mental attachment, because you have not actually tasted the real parting with things. Learn to part, be away from it, and just examine how your mind behaves. If your mind is well anchored and well matured, you're very certain that you have no exaggerated value to it. There are certain things, but a car, there will be a scratch or a dent. A chinaware will break. My child will fail in exams. There will be possible that there will be good and bad in life. We'll accept everything with grace. Oh, my only child, my child must be well, my child must go to the best school in town, my grandchild must come out colorful, he must go to the best college in the town, best college in the world. Arey yaar, what excitement. You only have your child and grandchild. What about others? If your child or grandchild doesn't go to the best of school, is the world going to come to an end? Oh my God, my grandchild is singing Carnatic music. Whole world must know. You're the only child that is singing Carnatic music. Oh, my grandchild has done a beautiful painting. The whole world advertise. You are the only child I've gotten. Impossible to tell you to be detached to it because you have not cultivated the detachment. I'm not trying to dig at anyone. I have no hard feelings. I'm only speaking the truth. And sometimes the truth can be very bitter to take. Realize you're terribly, terribly attached. Your son loses a job, you can't sleep. Your son doesn't do well, you can't sleep. Your child is not doing well, you can't eat. What is that? Isn't that attachment? Isn't that a burden? Huh? Isn't that a wrong relationship with the world? So start practicing detachment at the gross level and evolve. Wealth, there's nothing wrong per se, but ensure it doesn't create any disharmony and discontentment within. Learn to be detached. Okay. I think Sudhakar Garu had something to say. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have to be more of a giver than the taker attitude. And I have realized very much in my life, that giving gives quite a lot of pleasure to us. And when we part something with somebody, that gives an immense pleasure. That there's no bounds for that. That is finally I experienced throughout my life, and I feel it. That is the biggest achievement. Sometimes I feel like that. I don't know. You should be able to tell more about on this.
Yeah. No. Sir, there's nothing more than your experience, sir. What am I compared to the experience of having tasted what is the joy in giving? You don't need any shastras to tell you. You don't need any scriptures to tell you. You don't need any guru to tell you. If you have already tasted it, you know what it is, sir. Yes. I can advocate, I can lecture rest of my life and tell you, you must give. You must learn to part with it. You must learn to be grateful. You must at least give dakshina. Yeah. Guru dakshina you must give. I can tell rest of my life, forget being grateful, don't forget those who are interested in your benefaction. Yeah. And yet if you don't give, it is no use, isn't it?
Yes.
Huh? But if you have tasted the joy of giving, whose endorsement you need, sir? You don't need anybody's endorsement.
No, that is my personal experience. Whatever I'm telling you is the truth, out of my heart that has come.
So what I'm saying is, I am no one in this picture to tell anything about your grand experience. It's a very profound experience. Your experience speaks for itself. And your experience is exactly what the Shastra is saying. You're rich by what you give.
And one has to learn, these are the basics in life, the giving gives us the pleasure. And sharing is caring. From the childhood. We learn all these things, but nobody is there to practice. And people always, I have seen many people, only take us throughout my life, and I have realized it.
Since you're a giver, you must raise your level of giving. Yes. I don't know how many of you are givers amongst the receivers of this knowledge. I don't know. I'm not saying you're all not, but he amongst you are givers. Raise the bar of giving. Don't stagnate. First and foremost, be worthy of a giver, and then raise the bar of giving. And the epitomization of giving is to give yourself. I can only say I'm giving myself to this cause of attaining realization. And of all sacrifices, Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna is the highest of all giving. The lowest of giving is Dravya. As I've said, we must enter into the life of giving. And once you enter into the life of giving, you evolve. And you evolve to the highest level, which is to give the knowledge of the self. And in the process of giving, you give yourself away. You're consumed by that very act of giving. And all I can say is that fire of that goal is consuming my life. And what will be the ahuti is the realization. What comes out of it? My life is consumed. What comes out of it hopefully is realization. The flames. This is very clear. There's no two way about it. So whatever be the act of giving, first become a giver. The rest will follow. Which is nothing but, we said, spirit of detachment. Isn't it? I bow down to your spirit, Sudhakar Garu. Namaskar. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Namaskar.